والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. So the topic for tonight is, as you know, masculinity according to the Quran and the Sunnah. And I think we all know the importance of this topic in our day and age. 2023, United States of America. All of you, mashallah, you're either, I'm guessing, in high school or college, or you've already started your professional careers. So you see firsthand, you're at the forefront of what's going on in terms of like the social climate, you could say. And how as a society, they're really waging war on this term, masculinity, and also on femininity as well. They don't want men to be masculine anymore. And they don't want females to be feminine. It's all about this gender fluidity, gender neutrality, right? You could see it in the media, you could see it any video that pops up, any ad or whatever. This is what they're projecting, this is what they're putting forth to you. You guys here are distracting me. I need to go back. Why don't you go back? Muhammad, and I'm going to split you. So I know I'm going Muhammad on my right side here. So the real problem is, the real actual issue is that when the females aren't feminine anymore and the males aren't masculine anymore, what does it affect? It affects the families, right? Because all of you, you're either maybe married or wanting to get married, looking for marriage, right? And you want to build families, but these ideas, again, they're waging war on number one, families and marriage. How males behave, it affects how males behave within a marriage and how females behave within a marriage. There are no more gender roles. Everything has to be the same. Everything has to be. So that's the introduction. And let's get into what this word actually means. Masculinity. What does it mean? As we all know, words and terms evolve over time according to how society shifts. And according to how people understand them based on perceptions and habits and customs. For example, masculinity in a country like Saudi Arabia, it means something different. It has a certain connotation. As opposed to, say, Japan. I don't know what their culture is like, but I'm sure it's different, right? Or France, or the US, or a rural type of environment versus the city, right? People, they understand this term differently. But it's very important to define words according to what? According to Islam, according to the Quran, and according to the Sunnah. And you'll see, if you pay attention, if you see, the Arabs, at the time of, right before the Prophet ﷺ was sent as a prophet, right? They understood certain words, certain terms to mean I think it had a certain definition with them, according to them. But then Islam came and redefined all of that. It redefined it. So again, masculinity, what does it mean according to the Quran and according to the Sunnah? First of all, masculinity means for a man to be masculine, to have male traits. But what does that mean? First of all, in our aqidah, in our belief, we believe that obviously Allah Azza wa Jal created us. But with that creation, there has to be an intention behind it, a certain wisdom behind it. In Arabic we say irada. Allah has an irada, an intention, right? An intention behind His creation. So how did Allah, Azza wa Jalla, when He created man, created males and females, what did He intend for this male to behave as? Allah, Azza wa Jalla, He designed and proportioned and composed a male to look a certain way, to have certain qualities and certain characteristics, and to also behave in a certain way. Can a man, for example, become pregnant? No, obviously. Can a man breastfeed? No, that's for a woman. Those are clear and obvious biological differences between a man and a woman. And if you look at the female and her physical characteristics, does she have the same sexual organ as a male? Of course not. Allah created. The point is that this is the design of Allah. This is the creation of Allah. And Allah intended for this creation of His male and female to behave in a certain way. That's the point here. And we say that these differences are obvious, right? But just like there are physical and biological differences between males and females, there are also differences related to cognition, perception, behavior, which all affect which types of roles a male should have and what types of roles a female should have. Should a woman, for example, work in like coal mining? Should she be a plumber? It doesn't go along with how Allah created the female, right? But these are things that they don't tell you, or they're trying to change your beliefs about them. Should a man, for example, work in a daycare facility, taking care of babies, changing their diapers? Nobody would really accept that, right? So this example here illustrates everything for you. Say there's a husband and a wife, and they have a baby. And they both decided that the husband, he's going to stay home. He's going to stay home, and he's going to take care of this newborn baby by himself, full-time, while the woman, she works. Okay, just imagine this. And say that they live in a town or an environment in which the work is farm-related, or it's like a mining town, or one that has a lot of factories, it's a manufacturing town, and it involves physically demanding work. Okay? Now, ask yourself, would that make sense? Would that make sense? While the wife is the one who produces the breast milk, and she is the one who is naturally, Allah made her more caring and more nurturing and more patient with the baby. But to be honest with you, nobody would accept this. But how come, you ask yourself, how come they're trying to change our minds for us to accept this now? And they want you to be socially manipulated into thinking different. That your beliefs on gender roles are formed based on culture and environment. Based on the culture and the environment that you grew up in. So they say that you can't dictate to me what a man's role should be and a female's role should be. They are both equal. Woman can do whatever a man can. A woman can do whatever a man can. And men should do whatever women do. If a woman has to stay home, then he has to take turns. He has to stay home and take care of the baby as well, and the kids. But if you really ponder this sort of belief that they're trying to push on us, and our children as well, it's a very atheistic belief in nature. Very atheistic. Because it's based on an idea or belief that denies a creator. As we mentioned, when Allah creates, He has an irada. He has an intention, a wisdom behind that creation. He did not create Adam alayhi salam, a man, and just left it at that. No, He created him with certain physical characteristics. He thinks a certain way. He behaves in a certain manner. So of course He has certain roles. He has certain roles, and the same for a woman. And so that when we realize that make differences, you will see that, again, they do affect her role in society within a family. And you will see how a woman, naturally, by Allah Azza wa Jal, is given a secondary role, a supporting role. And this is, unfortunately, something very difficult for sisters, for Muslim sisters to accept. Why do I have to have a secondary role? Why am I seen as second class? But that's not how it is, right? They have to reshape these thoughts, really, because it's not. You're not less in the sight of Allah. You're not any lesser just because you're given a secondary role. Okay, now to begin the Islamic definition, and we all know that Allah Azza wa Jal, He chose the Arabic language to reveal the Quran in, and He made His last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam an Arab. He sent him amongst the Arabs. So our banner, the banner of Islam, of our religion, is the Arabic language. So how do you say, or how do you define masculinity in Arabic? What do you say? Or does anyone know the term? How would you say masculinity in Arabic? Yes, I forgot what you're actually Al-Rujula. Very good. Now, even though this word hasn't been mentioned in the Quran, and as far as I'm aware, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it hasn't been mentioned in the Sunnah, but Allah does mention Rijal in the Quran. And what qualities these Rijal have? رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله, amongst other ayats. So what does it mean to be a man according to the Quran and according to the Sunnah? How does Allah want you to behave, you as a youth? How does He want you to behave as a man? What roles does He want you to have? What responsibilities? We have to know this. Because guess what? And I'm going to get into it, but our society doesn't teach it. In our homes, our parents don't teach this to us either. So you have to really do your own due diligence. So that's the Quran, and also from the Sunnah, we have examples of what a rajul, what rijal do, how they behave, how they act. And we have the best example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was a true man, the best of men. How did he behave? How did he act? And how did he teach his companions to act and behave? How did he train and instruct them? And after that, or before that, was the other prophets as well. We have some of their stories about how they behaved, how they acted with their families, with the public, with people. And also from our ummah, the righteous men that came afterwards, and the imams and the leaders. We have many examples, many examples. So this lecture today is about two things that are attacking this wujuda, this masculinity in our society. Number one, very briefly, that there's a loss of distinction, which I alluded to, between males and females. How males have certain distinct characteristics and traits that make them unique and special, and women the same. And what happens when you dilute these differences? What happens to men and women? What happens to marriages, husband and wife? And what happens to the children that come from that? What happens? And I'll just give you one example. I noted down here. And I noticed this. I was overseas for a while, like 7 years, no video games there, staying away from YouTube, social media, as much as I could. But when I came back, some of the things were shocking, honestly. I mean, I grew up here, right? Yeah. I came back in 2017, okay? It was just a year after this whole, LGBT nonsense, it really, sprung up. And I'm looking at, some of these ads that pop up on YouTube, or if some of my cousins are playing a video game, what was it, Fortnite and Call of Duty, Warzone, whatever. I'm looking at these characters and I can't tell if it's a male or a female. I really can't. Well, I can't. You look at the body and you say it's a man. When you look at the face and you say no, it's a female. Then this is what they want for your children, for our children, for you. This is what they want. There's no more male. There's no more masculinity in males and no more femininity in women. So, as society has degenerated, some of the qualities that are defined as being part of masculinity. Well, this is another point. That even besides the agenda of LGBT and these other ideologies, right? In this atheistic, you could say, kufri society that we live in, even when people want to be masculine, they have it wrong a lot of the times. They have it wrong. They will define a man as being masculine, but in reality, he doesn't behave in a masculine manner. When you judge that behavior based on the Quran and based on the Sunnah, and based on how the Prophet behaved. And I can think of a couple of celebrities, like, back in the day, who were really, they represented like a masculine man. People looked up to them. But if you really like dissect their lives, there will be one or two aspects of their lives that really it just takes away, sucks out that masculinity from them. Like, I don't know, I'll just mention like Will Smith. Will Smith. Back in the day, back in the 2000s, right? He was very popular, whatever, movie star. And then if you look at his personal life, how he behaves with his wife and all these, I don't know if they're rumors, if they're true or not, but no, that's not a masculine man. That's not someone to look up to. Is there anyone else that, I don't know, that defines masculinity today? Maybe give me an example.
What's his name? For an example, if you're talking about a person who's not masculine, you're the Prince of England.
The Prince of England.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Harry or something. And yeah, him and his wife. There's some scuffle that they have going on with each other too.
Exactly. Yes. So, mashallah, that's exactly the point I was trying to get across, right? You'll see this man. He's good looking. He may even have some facial hair, that light, rugged, tough look. He may even practice a sport. Maybe he lifts weights. And obviously he's very wealthy. He's a celebrity. You look at how the relationship is with his spouse or his children. You're like, no. So the point is that even when you want to be masculine, according to this society, they don't really teach it to you in the correct manner. And we'll get into it. Why? And the second issue is basically what I mentioned. That the fact that society does not teach us or encourage us to be masculine as Allah intended, including our parents, unfortunately. Family who are responsible for bringing us up in the correct manner, teaching us and guiding us to be the best version of ourselves. And how you all have to grow up to be successful men. And unfortunately, I'm not speaking for everybody here, but most of our immigrant parents, they have replaced the traditional idea of being masculine with this false concept of equality. So a Muslim brother will have, say, 2 sons and 2 daughters, or whatever. And he'll treat the sons and the daughters equally the same, completely the same. The sons are not taught responsibility. They're not given responsibility. They don't know the value of the dollar. But if you look at the daughters as well, they're not taught femininity, how to, what goals she should have, how to cook and how to clean clean, how to take care of a home, how to raise a child. They're not taught these things. And we'll get into more of why. Why? So it does lead to, girls, our sisters, getting more privileges, so they're happy. And at least they think so. And they become less reliant on men. And a lot of girls, especially in this prime age of marriage, in their prime age of marriage, which I would say is between 18 and 24, they don't want to get married. There's a marriage crisis now here in the West, in America, where the girls, they don't want to get married. And they have goals of career and financial power and independence. And they won't compromise all these goals in order to marry a man so that he could come in, he could be the leader of the household, and he could provide for her instead. Because they see this, and the parents as well, as a type of enslavement to her. And again, if you look at society, right now I'm talking about Muslim American society, many Muslim sisters and her parents, their parents, they have this mentality, unfortunately. And the end result is that men, us, who naturally have a sexual need and an urge, and you want to go about things in the halal manner, you want to get married, but you can't. You can't. And these Muslim girls, they reject guys constantly reject them. And me, myself, I have so many friends in this boat. So many of them. In their mid-20s, late 20s, some of them, they've even approached 30. And there's one in particular I can think of, he's about 30 now, and he's been looking for 5.5 years. 5.5 years. And it leads to these brothers, their confidence being depleted, and them being frustrated and unnerved, and it really leads to depression, And the worst part is, I would say, that even if a youth, a young man like yourselves, you're able to find a Muslim girl that would agree to marry you, she'll marry you, but you, as if you walk into a trap with her. Because she's only going to marry you according to her own terms, and her family's terms as well. You must let me work full time. That's my human right of equality. I have to work full time. I'm not going to be raising your babies at home. What do you think I am? I'm not your maid. I'm not your slave. Okay. But then she'll go to the Islamic Sharia and say, look, Islam says that I have to keep my salary. All of it's mine. It goes into my bank account. We have no right to it whatsoever. And you have no right to it whatsoever. So it kind of leads a man, a guy, a Muslim youth, from, as the Arabic saying goes, translated, he goes from a hot place into a fire. He goes from a pretty bad situation where he's single and he can't find someone to marry him, and he's depressed, and he's like, oh, what am I going to do, this, that, the other. But now he's married. But as if he's worse off. He thinks, at least I had my freedom before. At least I had my own freedom. I was my own man. Now I'm being taken advantage of. And it's like, as if he's saying, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I want to be single again. And there's so many brothers like this. If you look at the marriage crisis, it involves divorce as well. It involves divorce as well. And they just want to leave the marriage. Even if they have kids, they just want to leave. They're like, what did I get myself into? What did I get myself into? I'm providing. I'm working full time. Maybe I have 2 jobs. Obviously she's not helping me financially, but she's leaving the home every single day, 40 hours a week. My home isn't clean. It's not kept up with. If we have kids, they're off in daycare. They're not being fed well. I don't know what kind of garbage they're putting into our kids in daycare or kindergarten or these public schools. He doesn't want that, but he has no choice. He has no choice. So this is how this mentality, leads to the destruction of families and society. And if you ask me, yes, I blame women. I blame women. I do. And I blame society for adopting these behaviors. And I blame parents. I blame the parents, and especially the father. This is where it kind of, the tides they kind of shift. Or you could say it becomes more equal, where I'm blaming the women, but now I'm blaming the father. I'm blaming him maybe the most. So if any sister says that you're being sexist or whatever, like, no, I blame the father probably the most. Because he led you into this. He didn't protect you from it. And the reason why parents, I mentioned this in my marriage lecture, and I think it's very true. Parents, why don't they teach their sons to be true masculine men? Why? What's the idea behind it? It's because, again, the immigrant parent, he wants the father or the mother, they want to give the child something they didn't have back home. Something they didn't have back home. They mean well, they really do. So they immigrate to a country in which they did not grow up in, and they only see things through their lens. And they do not consider, for the most part, what their children go through growing up in this society. Nor do they have the knowledge of it. They're ignorant of it. They are ignorant of it. Yeah. But what's their focus? Their focus is this secular education, this secular jobs. Because that's what they didn't have. That's why they even immigrated to this country. For themselves and also for their children. They don't want you to get married, for example. It's a brother. Any one of you, you're 21. Tell your parents you want to get married. What's their first reaction? You're 21. You're an adult. In this society, you're an adult. But what would be their reaction? You're too young. Why? Why? In my experience, it's because they don't want this marriage to distract you from that ultimate goal of, again, secular education, secular jobs, and high salaries. Because that's the ultimate goal. And they'll be like, oh, it'll make you struggle, and you won't be able to have, the best education, and it'll hold you back. And for the most part, I would say that they ignore the teachings of Islam. And if a son or a daughter decides to become practicing, and this happens a lot in our society, mashallah, it shows that the guidance is truly from Allah. They decide to become practicing. The son, for example, he wants to grow his beard. He wants to pray in the masjid. Maybe he wants to take a break from his studies. I want to find my purpose. What's this life I'm living? But the daughter, the same thing. She wants to wear her full hijab. She may even want to veil her face. That happens. And she has to go, when she's out, she wears niqab, for example, in secret. She can't tell her parents. And the parents, they panic. It's not like they don't like Islam, but they panic because, this is going to distract them from that ultimate. So let's go back to our topic of masculinity. And how much time do I have?
As much time as you want.
Okay. I want to make it too late for you guys, but I'm actually just getting into qualities which make up but I'll try to be fast.
No, you should take your time.
Take your time.
One of us.
Right. So, again, going back to how society depicts a man. From my experience, usually it's a man. Come on, you sit here, please. A man, even a masculine man, okay, clean shape. They don't have a beard. Or they'll have like physical, feminine qualities, like he's very thin, like a female. And you look at the style of the dress and the hair, it's just like, it's very feminine. It's very feminine. On that note, I wanted to ask any one of you, what would be your perception of masculinity? How would you define a masculine man? What does he look like? If I were to myself imagine a very masculine man, like a person that I would look up to and I want to be like, what would it look like? What would he look like? This one? Yeah, let's start with physical qualities. Beard, right? Very good. Very good. Anything else? Yes.
Muscles.
Good, I agree. Muscles. That goes against the thin models that we have, right? You know. Yeah. Yes.
Hair, men usually not
Yes.
legs.
Yes. Yes.
Chest.
And subhanAllah, just on that note, I grew up, I wasn't like the bodybuilding scene or whatever, and they hate hair. They wax it all off. Later I found out that no, this is actually, this is something that attracts females. It's a good thing. So yeah, it's a good one. Anything else? Physical qualities of a man, of a masculine man. Maybe one more. Yes, Will?
Broader shoulders.
Yes, broad shoulders. I was thinking that as well, along with the muscles. Yeah.
Very beautiful eyes.
Beautiful eyes. I don't know. Could be. Maybe from a female's perspective, I don't know. Yes. A deep voice. Very good. Very good. I agree. Totally. So let's get into what makes up a man who's supposed to be masculine in Islam. What is required of you? Again, what kind of qualities should you adopt for yourself? And if you ponder all these qualities I'm going to mention, they're all, every single one of them, are qualities that human beings across cultures and religions, they all respect. In men, but in humans in general. So pay attention to them. Number one, what I wrote here is that you give Allah his rights. The man